All right, hold on to your socks. It's going to be a bumpy road, but today I've got a little bit of a longer video for you. I want to take a minute today to talk to you about what I plan on reading during the summer of 2022. School year is almost over. This is the last Monday of our school year, and though I am teaching some summer school this summer, I'm also gearing up for some extra time to read, which is still challenging having two kids and just various responsibilities. But I am going to try and make more time to read. So I wanted to take some time today and tell you a little bit about some of the stuff that I'm going to be reading this summer. And I need to grab a book. I forgot one of my books. Oh, hold on. All right, so the first thing I'm going to finish reading this summer is the book I'm currently reading, which is Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. So this is the book I'm currently reading. It's one of our Battle of the books. And this particular book is essentially about a young girl named Lila Reyes who encounters three very, very difficult moments in her life, all within a couple of months of each other. Her abuelita dies. Her best friend, who they had plans of what they were going to do together after they graduated high school, changes those plans and moves halfway across the world. And her boyfriend of 3 years dumps her right before prom. And so she is in a very rough place mentally. And so her parents choose to ship her off to England to live with some family members and for a few months to try and recover her mental health. She does not want to go. It is not Miami, where she loves and where she's from and where she knows her routines. It's a very different situation. But she does start to make friends there, including a young man whose name is Orion Maxwell. And he runs the tea shop that caters their tea to the inn that she's staying in with her family, that her family owns. So it's a little bit of a romantic comedy. It's dealing with overcoming grief, and a fantastic Latina character, lead character. So that is The Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. So that is the first thing I'm going to read. Okay, so after I read that, in no particular order, because I don't know what the order is going to be yet, I will say that I am going to read, I'm going to listen to an audiobook version of Daisy Jones and the Six. So because I haven't read any of these yet, I'm going to literally just either read the descriptions off the back of the products or read them off of Amazon so you get an idea of what they're about. But this book's drawn my attention for a long time because it is musically related. And it says, everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six. The band's album Aurora came to define the rock and roll era of the late 70s, and an entire generation of girls wanted to grow up to be Daisy. But no one knows the reason behind the group's split on the night of their final concert at Chicago Stadium on July 12, 1979 until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting and unforgettable novel written as an oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a talented writer who takes her work to a new level with Daisy Jones and the Six, brilliantly capturing a place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. So one of the reasons I decided to listen to this on audiobook is a friend of mine who had read this already said she went back and forth between the audiobook and the book, and that the audiobook was phenomenal. It's got a full cast, and it is done like an audio history, like it said, an oral history. The cast includes Jennifer Beals, Benjamin Bratt, Judy Greer, Robin Lee, Pablo Schreiber, and more. Also, this particular book is currently being adapted, I believe, for Amazon Prime. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's another one that I'm going to check out. All right, another thing that I'm planning on reading, and I only allowed myself right now to buy 2 books over the summer, which is very, very difficult. But another thing that I'm looking forward to reading is this book called Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. Now, Michelle Zauner is the main driving force the founding member of Japanese Breakfast. She is the singer and guitarist of Japanese Breakfast, and really kind of is Japanese Breakfast, although she does have a full-time band now, I believe. Crying in H Mart is an award-winning book that she wrote, and I do know some about this book that I can talk about without reading the description. But essentially, when Michelle's mother, so this is a memoir, and it's about when Michelle's mother passed away from cancer. She was left to wrestle with her feelings over their broken relationship because they had some challenges in their relationship over the years, and her deep love for her mother and the loss of this person that she loved. And she would find herself in H Mart, which, if you're not familiar, is an Asian mart chain, Asian grocery chain that exists around the country. She would find herself in H Mart crying, looking at these other Asian families and just remembering her mother and wrestling with all those feelings. And so she decided to start learning how to cook the meals that she had grown up with, being half Korean, and her mom being the Korean half. She felt like not only had she lost her mother, but she had lost some of her heritage in that moment too. You'll have to excuse, they are edging outside. She had lost some of her heritage when her mom went away too, so she decided to invest in that by learning how to cook Korean food. And so this is sort of her memoir of dealing with her grief, dealing with the relationship that her and her mother had, and also reconnecting with her mother and her heritage after the loss of her mother. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Another book that I did allow myself to buy, and this is a bigger book, but I'm so interested in this book, is Renegades, Born in the U.S.A. by Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen. It says, 2 longtime friends take you beyond the ground-breaking podcast with an expanded conversation and never-before-seen speeches, archival material, and original lyrics. So there is a podcast called Renegades that these two do together, and in it they spend a lot of time talking about the state of the country and their own understanding of the way life is, and it's been a well-received podcast. Well, this is an opportunity to kind of go beyond that podcast and expand it a little bit. It is a absolutely beautiful book filled with gorgeous pictures. Like it said, there are song lyrics in here. There is like the speech that President Obama gave to commemorate the March in Selma is in here. And so they talk about music, they talk about culture, they talk about their families and heritage. And in many ways, they couldn't be more different, but they also learn about how they're very much the same. The only other physical book I have to show you today is, I do have a few more books to talk about after this, though, is Gotham Central. So Gotham Central, this is an omnibus, so this is like, 1,500 pages, something like that. And this is a comic series that came out a while back you can see it's by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, Michael Lark, Stefano Gaudiano, Kano. All of these people contributed to this. This series revolves around the Gotham Police Department, specifically the Gotham Central Station, and it kind of deals with what is it like to be a police officer in Gotham City, this town where things are going crazy, where we have caped vigilantes and masked villains and people like the Joker wreaking carnage. And it, for the most part, does not deal with supers, although there is some of that in here, but it deals with sort of the fallout. Okay, you've got this person who's trying to fix Gotham, but they're going against sort of the law in many ways to do that. How do you cope with that? How does it feel to be constantly sort of upstaged by this hero when you're working hard and facing so much danger as an individual as well? So this has won tons of recognition, and I've heard many people, including Near Mint Condition, talk about this being one of their favorite series of all time. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this series. So I do have 3 other books that right now I have on my to-be-read pile for this summer. So I thought I would take a minute and talk about those with you. One of them, I wanted to read another book of poetry because I haven't read any poetry in a little while, and I do love poetry. So I'm going to read Goldenrod by Maggie Smith. Now, this book caught my attention because it was nominated to be one of the poetry books of the year from Goodreads, and it was named a Best Book of 2021 by NPR. This is the description of the book. From the award-winning poet and best-selling author of Keep Moving and Good Bones, a stunning poetry collection that celebrates the beauty and messiness of life. With her breakout bestseller, Keep Moving, Maggie Smith captured the nation with her meditations on kindness and hope. Now, with Goldenrod, the award-winning poet returns with a powerful collection of poems that look at parenthood, solitude, love, and memory. Pulling objects from everyday life, a hallway mirror, a rock found in her son's pocket, a field of goldenrods at the side of the road, she reveals the magic of the present moment. Only Maggie Smith could turn an autocorrect mistake into a line of poetry, musing that her phone doesn't observe the high holidays, autocorrecting Shana Tova to Shaman Tobacco, Rosh Hashanah to Rose Has Hands. Slate called Smith's superpower as a writer her ability to find the perfect concrete metaphor for inchoate human emotions and explore it with empathy and honesty. The poems in Goldenrod celebrate the contours of daily life, explore and delight in the space between thought and experience, and remind us that we decide what's beautiful. So I'm very much looking forward to getting into some more poetry because I do love poetry so much, and I feel like it's very underrated. It doesn't get enough attention. So the next book that is also on my list is this book here, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev. So again, I'm reading straight from Amazon, but just kind of want to give you an idea of what these books are about. An electrifying novel about the meteoric rise of an iconic interracial rock duo in the 1970s, their sensational breakup, and the dark secrets unearthed when they try to reunite decades later for one last tour. A Good Morning America Buzz Pick named a Best Book of 2021 by Barack Obama. The Washington Post, NPR, Esquire, Entertainment Weekly, Goodreads, The Millions, Reader's Digest, Philadelphia Inquirer, Erie Reader, Public Radio Tulsa, Chicago Public Library, and Kirkus Reviews. Feels truer and more mesmerizing than some true stories. It's a packed time capsule that doubles as a stick of dynamite. The New York Times Best Book Review, So Opal is a fiercely independent young woman pushing against the grain in her style and attitude. Afro-punk before that term existed. Coming of age in Detroit, she can't imagine settling for a 9-to-5 job despite her unusual looks. Opal believes she can be a star. So when the aspiring British singer-songwriter Neville Charles discovers her at a bar's amateur night, she takes him up on his offer to make rock music together for the fledgling Rivington Records. In early 70s New York City, just as she's finding her niche as part of a flamboyant and funky creative scene, a rival band signed to her label brandishes a Confederate flag at a promotional concert. Opal's bold protest and the violence that ensues sets off a chain of events that will not only change the lives of those she loves, but also be a deadly reminder that repercussions are always harsher for women, especially black women who dare to speak their truth. Decades later, as Opal considers a 2016 reunion with Nev, music journalist S. Sunny Shelton seizes the chance to curate an oral history about her idols. Sunny thought she knew most of the stories leading up to the cult duo's most politicized chapter, but as her interviews dig deeper, a nasty new allegation from an unexpected source threatens to blow up everything. Provocative and chilling, the final revival of Opal and Nev features a backup chorus of unforgettable voices, a heroine the likes of which we've not seen in storytelling, and a daring structure, and introduces a bold new voice in contemporary fiction. So again, this is the final revival of Opal and Nev, and I don't think you can see it, but on the front there's actually a little comment that says, one of the most immersive novels I've ever read by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I love Ta-Nehisi Coates, so that's just one more great voice for that book. So I've got one last book to talk to you about. I'm very excited to talk to you about Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. So Yerba Buena is the debut adult novel by the best-selling and award-winning YA author Nina LaCour, following two women on a star-crossed journey towards each other. So first of all, let me say I love Nina LaCour. The Disenchantments is one of my favorite. We Are Okay is a fantastic book. I highly recommend Nina LaCour. So this is what it says. First of all, this is a most anticipated book from Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, The Washington Post, Time, Vulture, Elle, NBC News, Good Housekeeping, Parade, Electric Lit, Book Riot, Bustle, Goodreads, LGBTQ Reads, Auto Straddle, Pop Sugar, Veranda Magazine, The Lesbian Review, and more. It is a love story for our time, says Tara Conklin from the New York Times bestselling author of The Last Romantics. And this book is a precious thing, says Casey McQuiston, New York Times bestselling author of One Last Stop. So this says, when Sarah Foster runs away from home at 16, she leaves behind the girl she once was, capable of trust and intimacy. Years later in Los Angeles, she's a sought-after bartender, renowned as much for her brilliant cocktails as for the mystery that clings to her. Across the city, Emily Dubois is in a holding pattern, yearning for the beauty and community her Creole grandparents cultivated, but unable to commit. On a whim, she takes a job arranging flowers at the glamorous restaurant Yerba Buena and embarks on an affair with the married owner. The morning Emily and Sarah first meet at Yerba Buena, their connection is immediate, but the damage both women carry and the choices they've made pulls them apart again and again. When Sarah's old life catches up to her, upending everything she thought she wanted, just as Emily has finally gained her own sense of purpose, they must decide if their love is more powerful than their pasts. At once exquisite and expansive, astonishing in its humanity and heart, Yerba Buena is a love story for our time and a propulsive journey through the lives of two women trying to find somewhere or someone to call home. So once again, that is Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. So I know this is a bit of a long video, 15 minutes already, but I just wanted to take a minute and introduce you to a bunch of great books. I hope that you can find one that you love to read during the summer, and I look forward to telling you about how I felt about these books as I finish them up. It won't be long, and I'll be talking to you about Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. So go find one of these books and pick it up.